I secretly recorded my cheating wife and best friend plotting my murder for insurance. I exposed them and ruined their lives with cold revenge. You're both going to prison, Leon muttered under his breath, his hands trembling as he positioned the tiny GoPro camera in the crawl space beneath his living room floor. The digital clock on the device read 4:17 a.m. Above him, the floorboards creaked with Aubrey's restless sleep. He'd been lying awake for 3 hours, waiting for this moment. The camera lens focused perfectly on the couch where he'd spent countless evenings with his wife of 8 years, where they'd planned their future, where she told him she loved him just last Tuesday, where yesterday, through the window, he'd seen her kissing his best friend. Leon sealed the crawl space access panel and crept back upstairs. Aubrey stirred as he slipped into bed, her auburn hair catching the moonlight. "Where were you?" she mumbled. "Bathroom," he whispered. She rolled over, and within minutes her breathing returned to its familiar rhythm. Leon stared at the ceiling, his mind racing through calculations, flow rates, pressure differentials, the structural integrity of lies. He was a water systems technician for the city of Millbrook, a job most people considered boring. They had no idea that Leon understood every pipe, every valve, every hidden passage beneath their feet. The underground was his domain, and now it would become his tool. 3 weeks earlier, Leon had been debugging a pressure monitoring system when Grady Sullivan walked into the control room. Grady worked in municipal planning, supposedly coordinating infrastructure projects. In reality, he spent most days playing solitaire and charming his way out of actual work. "Leo, my man," Grady's voice boomed off the concrete walls. "Still playing with your toys down here?" Leon didn't look up from his computer screen. "Preventing water contamination for 60,000 residents. But sure, call it playing. Come on, don't be so serious. Aubrey says you've been working too much lately. She's worried about you." Something in Grady's tone made Leon pause, too familiar, too concerned about his wife's feelings. "When did you talk to Aubrey?" "Oh, I stop by sometimes when you're pulling these late shifts. Just being a good friend." Leon's fingers stopped moving across the keyboard. "You stop by my house? Relax, man. She gets lonely. I keep her company, maybe bring some takeout. Nothing weird about it." Everything about it was weird. Leon and Grady had been friends since college, but Grady had never been the type to make social calls, especially not to married friends' wives. "Right," Leon said slowly. "Thanks for keeping her company." "No problem. That's what friends do." After Grady left, Leon sat in the humming silence of the control room. The massive pumps cycled through their routine, pushing millions of gallons through the city's veins. He pulled up the security logs for the past month, cross-referencing them with his work schedule. Grady's keycard had been used to access the building 7 times in the past 3 weeks, always on nights when Leon was working late, always for less than an hour, always with checkout times that didn't match any official business. Leon opened a new spreadsheet and began documenting everything. The next morning, Leon drove home through Millbrook's fading suburban streets. His neighborhood had been upscale once, back when the furniture factory was still running. Now it was a collection of oversized houses that people couldn't quite afford to maintain. He pulled into his driveway and sat for a moment, studying his home. The paint was peeling around the windows, the lawn needed cutting. The gutters sagged with autumn leaves. Aubrey's car wasn't in the garage. Leon walked through the front door and immediately noticed the coffee cups on the kitchen counter, 2 cups, both still warm. He checked the time, 9:23 a.m. Aubrey didn't drink coffee after 8 a.m. because it made her jittery. She had told him this 1,000 times. Leon opened the dishwasher. It was full of clean dishes, but the coffee cups weren't there. Someone had washed them by hand and left them to dry. He walked into the living room and knelt beside the couch. The cushions were slightly displaced, as if someone had been sitting there recently. He pressed his face to the fabric and inhaled Grady's cologne, unmistakable. Leon stood up and walked to his home office. His computer was still password protected, but the chair had been moved. The filing cabinet was closed, but the lock was turned to the wrong position. Someone had been searching through his things. Leon sat down at his desk and opened his laptop. He navigated to his personal email and began typing. Subject: Home Security Consultation. I need to discuss options for residential surveillance equipment. Discrete installation preferred. Available for immediate consultation. Regards, L. Rice. He hit send and leaned back in his chair. The house felt different now, contaminated. His phone buzzed with a text from Aubrey, working late today. Don't wait up. Love you. Leon stared at the message. She was supposed to be at the salon. Her salon closed at 6 p.m. on Tuesdays. He opened his laptop and began researching divorce attorneys. Leon spent the next week in careful observation mode. He installed the security system himself, hiding cameras in 3 locations: the living room, the kitchen, and the bedroom. He also placed audio recorders in the basement and the garage. He modified his work schedule, telling his supervisor he needed to do overnight maintenance on the filtration systems. This gave him legitimate reasons to be away from home at irregular hours. On Thursday night, Leon parked his truck at the water treatment plant and walked the half-mile through the old storm drainage tunnels to his neighborhood. The tunnels were part of a failed expansion project from the 1980s, never completed but never filled in. Leon had mapped every inch of them during his first year on the job. He emerged from a drainage outlet 3 blocks from his house and made his way through the shadows to his backyard. The motion sensors on his security system were disabled remotely. He slipped inside through the basement door. The house was quiet. Leon crept upstairs and checked the bedroom. Empty. Aubrey's car was gone. He went to his office and opened the laptop. The surveillance system had been recording for 6 hours. Leon fast-forwarded through the footage. At 7:43 p.m., Aubrey's car pulled into the driveway. She wasn't alone. Grady got out of the passenger seat, laughing at something she'd said. They walked to the front door together, Aubrey's hand on his lower back. Leon's jaw tightened as he watched them enter his home. On the living room camera, he saw Aubrey pour 2 glasses of wine. His wine, the bottle he'd been saving for their anniversary. They sat on the couch, closer than friends should sit. Aubrey tucked her legs under her and leaned against Grady's shoulder. "Leon's been so distant lately," she said. "I don't think he even notices me anymore." "His loss," Grady replied, stroking her hair. "You deserve better than some basement-dwelling waterboy. He's not that bad. He's just predictable, boring. When's the last time he surprised me with anything?" "Well, I've got a surprise for you." Grady reached into his jacket and pulled out a small velvet box. Leon's blood went cold. "Grady, we can't. Just look at it. You don't have to decide anything tonight." Aubrey opened the box. Inside was a simple gold ring with a small diamond. Not expensive, but deliberate. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "I know this is complicated, but I love you, Aubrey. I've loved you since college, before you even met Leon." She kissed him, long and deep, with a passion Leon hadn't seen from her in years. Leon closed the laptop and sat in the darkness of his office. The house around him felt like a crime scene. Every surface, every memory contaminated by betrayal. He opened his phone and scrolled through his contacts until he found the number for Lola Brennan. She worked in HR at the city, a quiet woman with sharp eyes who'd always been friendly to Leon. More importantly, she had access to personnel records and payroll information. "Lola, it's Leon Rice. I need to talk to you about something. Can you meet me tomorrow?" Lola agreed to meet Leon at a coffee shop downtown. She arrived early, ordering a black coffee and sitting in a corner booth where they could speak privately. Leon slid into the seat across from her. "Thanks for meeting me. I know this is unusual. You sounded upset on the phone. What's going on?" Leon pulled out a manila folder and placed it on the table. "I need you to look at something. Grady Sullivan's timesheet records for the past 6 months. Lola frowned. "Leon, I can't just... Please, just look." She opened the folder and studied the documents. Leon had compiled every instance of Grady's building access, cross-referenced with his official work schedule and project assignments. "These don't match," Lola said slowly. "He's been logging hours for projects that don't exist. And these access times, he's been in the building when he's supposed to be at job sites. Keep reading." Lola flipped through more pages. "He's been using your security codes to access the archives. Why would he need historical, water system data? He doesn't. He's been using my access to cover his tracks, making it look like I authorized his overtime. Leon, this is fraud. Serious fraud. Why are you bringing this to me instead of filing a complaint?" Leon met her eyes. "Because I need to know how deep this goes before I make my move. And because I think you might have your own reasons for wanting to see Grady held accountable." Lola's expression darkened. "What do you mean?" "Your brother Danny. The inheritance issue with your grandmother's house. Grady was dating your sister-in-law when all that happened, wasn't he?" Lola's jaw tightened. "How do you know about that?" "I know Grady. I know how he operates. He convinced your sister-in-law to contest the will, didn't he? Promised her a bigger payout if she fought your family in court. She spent everything on legal fees. Grady disappeared as soon as the money ran out. That's his pattern. He finds people who trust him, then he uses that trust to take what he wants." Lola closed the folder. "What do you want me to do?" "I want you to help me document everything. Build a case that's airtight. When I'm ready to move, I want to bury him so deep he never sees daylight again." "And what about Aubrey?" Leon's expression went cold. "She made her choice. Now she gets to live with the consequences. Over the next 2 weeks, Leon and Lola worked together to build their case against Grady. They documented every fraudulent timesheet, every unauthorized access, every forged signature. The evidence was overwhelming. Meanwhile, Leon continued his surveillance. He watched Aubrey and Grady meet at restaurants, hotels, and his own home. He recorded their conversations, their plans, their casual discussions about his failings as a husband. On a Tuesday evening, Leon decided it was time to begin the next phase. He drove home from work at his usual time, but instead of entering through the front door, he went around to the basement. The surveillance system showed Aubrey and Grady in the living room, sharing a bottle of wine and discussing their weekend plans. Leon crept upstairs and hid in the hallway closet. He could hear their voices clearly, thinking about the lake house. Grady was saying, "My cousin's place is empty this weekend. We could drive up Friday night. What if Leon gets suspicious? Tell him you're visiting your sister in Hartford. You've used that excuse before. I hate lying to him. He doesn't deserve this. Then leave him. You know you want to. It's not that simple. The house, the finances, everything's tied together. I can't just walk away. You could if you had help. I've been thinking about this. There might be a way to make it work." Leon's pulse quickened. This was it, the moment they moved from affair to conspiracy. What kind of way? Leon's got life insurance through the city, $500,000, and he's got that whole dangerous job thing going on. Accidents happen in water treatment plants. Aubrey's voice dropped to a whisper. "Grady, you can't be serious. I'm just saying, if something happened to him, we'd be free and financially secure. That's horrible. I can't believe you'd even think that. You're right, I'm sorry. I just love you so much, Aubrey. I can't stand the thought of you staying trapped in this marriage. I love you too, but we have to be smart about this patient." Leon closed his eyes and counted to 10. Then he opened the closet door and walked into the living room. Aubrey and Grady sprang apart on the couch, wine glasses sloshing. "Leon?" Aubrey gasped. "You're home early. Am I interrupting something?" "No, of course not. Grady just stopped by. To what?" Leon's voice was calm, almost conversational. "To discuss my life insurance policy?" The color drained from Grady's face. "Leon, man, we were just what? Planning my funeral? You don't understand." "I understand perfectly." Leon walked to the entertainment center and pulled out a small device. "I understand that you've been sleeping with my wife for months. I understand that you've been stealing from the city and using my access codes to cover it up. And I understand that you just suggested murdering me for insurance money." He held up the recording device. "I also understand that everything you've said in this room for the past month is admissible in court." Aubrey started crying. "Leon, please save it." Leon pocketed the recorder. "I'm filing for divorce tomorrow. I'm also filing a criminal complaint against Grady for fraud and conspiracy. You both have 24 hours to find somewhere else to live." "You can't do this," Grady snarled, standing up. "This is entrapment, illegal surveillance." "Is it?" "In my own home." "Check the law, Grady. Ohio's a one-party consent state. I can record any conversation I'm legally entitled to hear." "You weren't in the room, wasn't I?" "Check the timestamps. I was in the house the entire time. That makes me a party to the conversation." Grady lunged forward, but Leon was ready. He sidestepped and grabbed Grady by the shirt, using his momentum to slam him against the wall. "Touch me again," Leon said quietly, "and I'll add assault to the charges." Grady shoved him back. "You think you're so smart, don't you? You think you've got it all figured out? I know I do. You don't know anything. You're a nobody. A pencil-pushing drone who thinks he's important because he knows how to read water pressure. Aubrey's been laughing at you behind your back for years. I'm sure she has, but I'm not the one who's about to lose everything." Leon walked to the door and opened it. "Get out, both of you, now." Aubrey stood up, wiping her eyes. "Leon, can we please talk about this rationally? There's nothing to talk about. You made your choice. I made a mistake. People make mistakes. Mistakes are accidents. This was deliberate, calculated. You chose to betray me, and now you get to live with the consequences. What about forgiveness? What about our marriage vows?" Leon's laugh was bitter. "You want to talk about vows? Let me remind you, for better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, till death do us part." You decided to skip ahead to the death part. Grady grabbed his jacket. "This isn't over, Leon. You can't destroy people's lives just because you're angry. Watch me." The next morning, Leon arrived at the courthouse when it opened. He filed for divorce, citing adultery and irreconcilable differences. He also filed a restraining order against both Aubrey and Grady, preventing them from accessing his home or workplace. At the same time, Lola submitted their evidence package to the HR department and the city attorney's office. By noon, Grady had been escorted from the building and placed on administrative leave pending investigation. Leon spent the afternoon moving his most important possessions to a storage unit. He also changed the locks on the house and canceled Aubrey's access to their joint accounts. His phone rang constantly. Aubrey, then Grady, then Aubrey again. He ignored them all. At 6 p.m., Leon drove to the water treatment plant. He had legitimate work to do, but more importantly, he needed to prepare for the next phase of his plan. The old storm tunnels provided access to most of the city's underground infrastructure. Leon had been mapping them for years, documenting every connection, every abandoned section, every forgotten maintenance room. 3 blocks from his house, there was a room that had been sealed off in the 1990s when the tunnel project was canceled. Leon had discovered it during a routine inspection, but he'd never reported it. The space was perfect for his needs, dry, secure, and completely off the grid. Over the next week, Leon quietly moved equipment into the room, a desk, a chair, a filing cabinet. He ran an Ethernet cable through the tunnel system and set up a secure internet connection. He installed battery-powered LED lights and a small ventilation fan. It became his command center. From there, Leon coordinated his campaign of destruction. He worked with Lola to expose every aspect of Grady's fraud. They found evidence of kickbacks, falsified inspections, and unauthorized equipment purchases. The case grew bigger every day. Leon also hired a private investigator to document Aubrey's financial activities. They discovered that she'd been skimming money from her salon's accounts, using the cash to pay for hotels and gifts for Grady. On Thursday evening, Leon received a call from his attorney. "We've got a problem," the lawyer said. "Aubrey's claiming she's pregnant." Leon sat down hard in his underground office chair. "What?" "She filed a motion to delay the divorce proceedings, claiming she's carrying your child and needs time to consider her options." "That's impossible. We haven't been intimate in months. Can you prove that?" Leon thought about the surveillance footage. "Yes, I can prove it." "Good, because if she's pregnant and it's not yours, that's another piece of evidence for the adultery case. But if it is yours, it's not. Trust me." Leon hung up and stared at the concrete wall. Aubrey was escalating, getting desperate. That made her dangerous. He needed to end this quickly. The divorce hearing was scheduled for the following Monday. Leon spent the weekend in his underground office, preparing his presentation. He'd compiled everything: financial records, surveillance footage, audio recordings, and witness testimony. On Monday morning, Leon arrived at the courthouse early. He wore his best suit and carried a briefcase full of evidence. Aubrey was already there with her attorney, a sharp-looking woman in an expensive dress. Grady was there too, sitting in the back row. He'd been fired from the city job, but the criminal charges were still pending. He looked haggard, defeated. Judge Matt called the court to order. She was a no-nonsense woman in her 60s, known for her sharp legal mind and intolerance for games. "This is a divorce proceeding for Leon and Aubrey Rice," the judge announced. "Mr. Rice, you filed for divorce on grounds of adultery. Present your evidence." Leon stood up and walked to the podium. "Your Honor, I have extensive documentation of my wife's affair with Mr. Grady Sullivan, as well as evidence of financial misconduct by both parties." He began with the surveillance footage. The courtroom watched in silence as Aubrey and Grady kissed on the couch, planned their weekend getaways, and discussed Leon's life insurance policy. Aubrey's attorney objected repeatedly, but Judge Matt overruled her each time. The evidence was legally obtained and directly relevant to the case. Next, Leon presented the financial records. He showed how Aubrey had been stealing from her salon to fund the affair, and how Grady had been defrauding the city to supplement his income. "Your Honor," Leon said, "the defendant has systematically betrayed the trust of our marriage, violated her fiduciary duties as a business owner, and conspired with her lover to commit fraud against the city government. She has also made threats against my life, as documented in the audio recordings." Judge Matt reviewed the evidence. "Mrs. Rice, how do you respond to these allegations?" Aubrey's attorney stood up. "Your Honor, my client acknowledges that she made mistakes in her marriage. However, she is currently pregnant with Mr. Rice's child, and we believe that reconciliation is possible if—" "Objection," Leon interrupted. "The defendant is not pregnant with my child. I have medical evidence to prove it." Leon handed a document to the bailiff. "This is a paternity test result obtained through court order. The child is not mine." The judge reviewed the document. "Mrs. Rice, is this accurate?" Aubrey broke down crying. "Yes, Your Honor. The baby is Grady's." A murmur went through the courtroom. Judge Matt banged her gavel. "Based on the evidence presented, I find that the defendant has committed adultery and engaged in fraudulent financial conduct. The divorce is granted. Mr. Rice will retain ownership of the marital home and all associated assets. Mrs. Rice will receive no alimony. Custody of the unborn child is not applicable, as Mr. Rice is not the biological father. The gavel came down with finality. Leon gathered his papers and walked toward the exit. Aubrey was sobbing at the defendant's table. Grady was nowhere to be seen. As Leon reached the courtroom door, Aubrey called out, "Leon, wait, please." He turned around. Her mascara was running, her hair disheveled. She looked broken. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but—" "You're right," Leon said calmly. "You don't." He walked out of the courthouse and into the bright afternoon sun. It was over. 2 weeks later, Leon was working late at the water treatment plant when he heard footsteps in the tunnel. He looked up from his computer to see Grady emerging from the shadows. "Hello, Leon." Grady looked terrible. His clothes were wrinkled, his face unshaven, he'd lost weight, and his eyes were bloodshot. "What do you want, Grady?" "I want to talk man to man. We have nothing to talk about." "I think we do." Grady stepped closer. "You destroyed my life, my career, my reputation, my future, all because you couldn't handle the fact that your wife didn't love you." "I destroyed your life?" "You did that yourself when you decided to steal from the city and sleep with my wife. She came to me, Leon. She was lonely, neglected. You were so busy with your precious water systems that you couldn't see what was happening in your own home. So you decided to help yourself to what wasn't yours. I loved her. I still love her. Then why aren't you with her now?" Grady's face crumpled. "She won't talk to me. Says I ruined everything. Says it's my fault she lost the house, the business, everything. It is your fault. No, it's yours. You could have just divorced her quietly, taken your share, and walked away. But you had to destroy us both." Leon stood up from his desk. "You tried to have me killed. That was just talk, frustrated talk. I would never have actually—" "Bullshit. You planted the idea in her head. You made her think about it. You're lucky I didn't press charges for conspiracy to commit murder." "Lucky?" Grady laughed bitterly. "You call this lucky?" "I lost everything. My job, my reputation, my future. I can't even get hired at McDonald's now. You should have thought about that before you betrayed me. I was your friend. Friends don't steal. Friends don't lie. Friends don't sleep with your wife and then plan your murder." Grady's face twisted with rage. "You self-righteous bastard. You think you're so perfect, don't you? You think you're the victim here? I am the victim. You're a cold, calculating, emotionless machine. No wonder Aubrey couldn't stand being married to you. Maybe. But I'm also the one who won." Grady lunged forward, swinging his fist at Leon's face. Leon ducked and grabbed Grady's wrist, twisting it behind his back and slamming him against the concrete wall. "Get off me! You're trespassing on city property. You're in violation of the restraining order. And now you've assaulted me. Want to add to your legal troubles?" Leon released him and stepped back. Grady rubbed his wrist, breathing hard. "This isn't over," he said. "Yes, it is. You're finished, Grady. Done. There's nothing left for you here. I'll rebuild. I'll start over somewhere else." "With what? You have no money, no references, no prospects, and everywhere you go, this will follow you. Every job application, every background check, every relationship, you'll never escape what you did. Neither will you. You'll never trust anyone again. You'll never love anyone again. You'll spend the rest of your life alone in this basement, surrounded by pipes and gauges, wondering if everyone you meet is planning to betray you." Leon smiled coldly. "Maybe, but I'll be alive to wonder about it." Grady stared at him for a long moment, then turned and walked back into the darkness of the tunnel. Leon watched him go, then sat back down at his desk. He had work to do. The city's water system needed constant monitoring, constant maintenance. It was a big responsibility, keeping everything flowing smoothly. But Leon was good at his job. He understood pressure, flow rates, system integrity. He knew how to identify problems before they became disasters. He knew how to fix things that were broken. And he knew how to shut off the flow completely when something was contaminated beyond repair. Leon turned back to his computer and began typing his weekly report. Outside, the city slept peacefully, unaware of the complex systems that kept it running. In the tunnels beneath, water flowed through carefully maintained channels, following the path of least resistance, always moving forward, never looking back. Leon understood that principle better than anyone. He finished his report and prepared to go home to his house, his mortgage, his life rebuilt from the ruins of betrayal. At the tunnel entrance, he paused and looked back at his underground office. Tomorrow, he would return to his regular schedule, his normal life. The secret room would remain, a reminder of what he was capable of when pushed too far. But tonight, he would sleep in his own bed, in his own home, surrounded by the silence of victory. Leon emerged from the tunnel system and walked through the empty streets of Millbrook. The houses were dark, their occupants dreaming peacefully, trusting in the systems that kept their world running smoothly. They had no idea how fragile those systems really were, or how dangerous it was to cross the man who maintained them. Leon reached his house and stood on the front porch, looking up at the windows. No other cars in the driveway, no other voices in the rooms, no other lives to complicate his own. He unlocked the door and stepped inside. The silence was perfect,